a framework that I like to keep in mind when generating AI content is it's called the chef framework. And I
Mm.
love it because it's the same way a chef would approach cooking a dish.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment wherever you listen. And for all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, head over to the datanerdpodcast.com. I'm joined today on the Data Nerd Podcast by Charlie Hills. Charlie, welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nissa. I'm super excited to just chat with you.
Same here, same here. So before we start, a little introduction for those who don't know Charlie. Charlie Hills is a growth strategist who turned AI into a full-fledged engine for LinkedIn influence. In 2024, Charlie leveraged AI-powered strategies to grow his LinkedIn following to over 50,000 followers in under 1 year. But he didn't stop there. By 2025, he skyrocketed to over 160,000. I think you're over 170 now.
I
Uh,
am indeed.
yeah, in 9 months, right? So proving that when done right, or when you're using AI as a tool properly, could serve as a growth engine, right? So and I'm just curious because that I got some of that information from your LinkedIn profile, and I'm sure that that number keeps changing. Are you updating your profile every time that, or do you have certain benchmarks that you're looking for your followers?
Yeah, so I like to give my profile a refresh kind of every few months. But to be honest, yeah, I try not to focus on the numbers too much. When I was growing in those early days, it was like every 10K I'd update it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's around kind of every 50K or so. Yeah, I give it a little refresh.
Listen, that's great. I mean, that in itself is great that you can increase that because your growth is getting to that level, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy and it surprises me, to be honest. I'm like, wow, how has this even happened? It's honestly like unbelievable at times.
So I'd love to get into your story on like how this started, right? But before we do that, I do like to ask, this being a data nerd podcast, I ask all my guests if you're a data nerd. And I know just based on your your content and your background, I think I know the answer to that. But the question is, if you are a data nerd, tell me when you realized you were one.
To be honest, I wouldn't consider myself a huge data nerd. Like, I'm a marketer first, and obviously, being in marketing, there is a lot of data involved.
Hmm.
But I don't like to dive too deep into it. Very much, I'm more of a kind of qualitative data type of person rather than quantitative. If my uni degree serves me correctly there,
Yeah.
but honestly, yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with analytics, metrics, especially when it comes to social media.
Yeah. I mean, I think to some degree, everyone's got to have some level of data literacy, right? In this day and age. And if you're not, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, no, of course, that guides everything, especially when it comes to social content. If you're not listening to the data, then you're posting blind.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So what I wanted to talk to you about today, like your growth, right? And this was, correct me if I'm wrong, or if anything that I said in the intro was incorrect, but my impression is that your growth was really boosted by with AI, right? Um, so
Hmm.
can you talk about like how this started? Like, what's your background? How did you get into this space, and then talk about some of your growth?
Sure. So, I mean, my obsession with AI started before ChatGPT. I remember it was probably around 2017 that I saw an article from Elon Musk, which, I mean, he quoted this statement in this article which said AI will replace human intelligence by 2025, which is crazy because we are in the year of 2025. And
Yeah,
I don't think his prediction's entirely wrong.
yeah.
So at that moment in time, I knew that AI was on the horizon and I really wanted to kind of dive deeper into it. So that's why at university, I studied marketing, but for my dissertation, I wrote it on the impact of AI on customer loyalty, which was the perfect time because that was in 2021 that I finally graduated.
Mm.
And then lo and behold, the year later, ChatGPT launched. And it was like, whoa, this is the AI. This is this is what everyone's been kind of getting excited about. Obviously, AI has been around since like the 1950s, but now it was available to anybody. So literally, like a lot of people, I've been leveraging it every single day since then.
Mm.
And I've just find as a marketer first that it's really helped me in all aspects of my work. You know, copywriting, designs, video, like you name it. I feel like AI has touched every aspect of marketing at this point. So I was very much just leveraging it every single day in my day job, almost too much. You know, I'd come in every single day and share a new tool or workflow, tell my boss that why don't we build a custom GPT for this or that or this automation? And they just weren't very interested in it. So I knew I had to find some form of creative outlet just to one, escape the 9 to 5, but then also to share my kind of AI passion and expertise online.
Mm.
And that's why I took to LinkedIn. You know, I started sharing in the towards the end of 2023, but from January 2024 onwards, I was like, okay, I'm getting serious about this. I'm going to post every single day. I'm going to comment every single day, and I'm going to scale my personal brand. And AI was how I started out, and very much how I'm still going along today. It's always been kind of my focus and just driver and passion.
Okay, so a lot of questions that I have now based on what you said. Number one, before I get into the personal stuff, is your day job, your work, they weren't on board with using AI then, are they now?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a past colleague and he told me he's leading the AI transformation at my old company.
Yeah.
But in 2023, it was still kind of a new tech and I was working for a small kind of medium-sized business. So I think the big kind of enterprise players, they were looking at AI around there then. But if you're a smaller company, you've only got, you know, limited resources and bandwidth to really implement this stuff when it hasn't even proven itself.
But I feel like you have more flexibility when you're a smaller company too, because in larger organizations, there's more, I don't know, red tape or things that in order to create any type of change, it takes a little longer. I feel like you have more flexibility in smaller teams.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think everyone now at the company is they're all on AI, whereas I was very much an early mover and really kind of driving innovation from the ground up rather than from top down.
Yeah.
So I was just a bit ahead of the curve, and yeah, maybe a bit too AI obsessed back then.
Well, I mean, you have no regrets, right? Because
Oh no.
it's done you well, right? And this growth from your personal side now has got you to where you are now. And so here's the thing: when people are listening to you, they're like, "Oh, you've leveraged AI, and now you've got some, you know, it as a result of that, you have personal growth and you have a large following, and you have AI content that you're posting about on LinkedIn. I follow you, and I've learned so much from your posts just today. Okay, before this podcast, I was going on your profile just to do some research, and then I was like, I had no idea. I just saw the posts about Chat GPT. What is it? Personalities.
Yep.
I because it's kind of hidden. So there's like five different
Mm,
I'm not talking about the models. You're talking about like you could be a nerd, you could be a cynic, a supporter. There's like five different personalities. And I was looking at that, I was like, wow, I didn't realize because it's something that is kind of hidden. It's like on the bottom and you got to change it.
mm.
And it's things like that that people like you bring out and everyone can learn from because AI's I don't know it's you can't if you're in the game if you're in AI I don't think you can stop learning because including yourself, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, this is what I love about my job now is that I spend all day, every day, just testing new AI tools and workflows and just researching it. Versus when I was employed full time, I remember I'd be working and I'd be like, oh, damn it, there's a new ChatGPT launch and I can't like I
Yeah.
can't research it. I can't play around with it because I'm working so hard for my employer. So that's what I truly love about this. And it's just the ultimately the freedom to choose how I spend my days. That's all I ever wanted, and that was the reason why I embarked on this journey in the first place.
Yeah. No, that's great. So what's your playbook? What is this? Like people are gonna listen to you and say, I can do this. But here's the thing. It's not it's not something that you do in autopilot. There's still work. There's still a strategy. There's still something you have to do to make it work, right? So what's the strategy? How do people leverage AI for their own personal growth?
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm very much involved in. I wish I could click my fingers and it's all automated. My content's auto scheduled, auto created, but we're not quite there yet. So I'm very much involved in my own content and also client content too. And I believe it helps the fact that I've studied graphic design. I have kind of expertise in marketing and a level of taste when it comes to content. So that's really important when creating AI content because anybody can churn out ideas, but to actually execute them in a nice, fashionable way, that is a different story. But ultimately, it does all come down to practice. I remember my first posts back in early 2024. They were dreadful. They were just so rudimentary and basic. Whereas now, I've done it for like almost 2 years, and my content's way better as a result. So AI basically gave me the opportunity to create all of this content. Even on weekends, I'd batch create so then I could post every single day alongside my day job. But a framework that I like to keep in mind when generating AI content is it's called the chef framework. And
Mm,
I love it because it's the same way a chef would approach cooking a dish. First, you have to start with the gather stage, which is basically gathering your ingredients, like every unique bit of context, your background story, your achievements, absolutely everything. So then AI has the contextual awareness to generate personalized content because
mm,
ChatGPT out of the box is going to be like everybody else.
mm,
But by following the gather stage, you can get everything and then upload it to like a notebook at LM or a ChatGPT projects. And then when you go to the generate stage, it's a lot easier to churn out highly personalized content. And the generate stage is the same as like just cooking the dish. It's quite simple. You type in a prompt, press a button, and voila, you've got your kind of first iteration. But secondly, which is obviously very important, it's the seasoning. It's the sprinkling in your unique spices and flavoring,
mm.
which really make your content unique. And one big, big thing that people neglect, especially on LinkedIn, is the serve, which is human centric. This part isn't AI generated, but is actually hanging around in the comments, talking to people in the DMs, and building relationships because that is probably the biggest thing that people forget about when it comes to creating content online.
You want the engagement so you can
Mm.
so that growth can continue, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you just build up friendships, fans, just genuine supporters of people who want to see you win.
You know what? So that's something that I take to heart. So I'm not in the AI space. I'm not an AI expert, but I'm learning AI and I'm trying to teach it as well because I teach analytics, right? And so in all industry spaces, especially analytics, now you need to leverage AI for our work. And if you're not, that you're going to be left behind. And so I teach people about how to leverage AI, and there's some things that I learned from content creators, including yourself, that I teach them. And one of them is, and this is not related to analytics specifically, just for anyone, is the engagement, right? If you want, like, LinkedIn is a networking tool for whatever you need, right? I'm not talking, you don't necessarily have to be looking for a job to network, right? Network is just like you want to build your network so that you have the expertise across different aspects and different industries and different skills, right? And how do you do that? You need to put yourself out there. It's not just about putting content out there, it's engaging. So when I reached out to you, one thing that stood out to me Most people I reach out to, you go on your LinkedIn messages and you send a written text message, and everyone replies back by text. You were the first person that responded to me using audio on LinkedIn, using his voice. And I was like, and that it's felt personal, right? And it felt like you took that extra effort to say it by voice, because it's easier to write by text. Some people could use AI too. So the voice, right? As of now, AI is not able to actually, it can replicate your voice, and that's
Yeah.
incorrect, right? It can.
Yes, we
So,
can.
I won't say that, but I'm pretty confident that what you said to me was your own voice, right?
It
Um,
was, yeah.
and that hit me, and since then, to be honest, I've been doing the same thing with other people because I feel it's more personal, right? And so those things make a difference, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's something that I prioritize a lot. Every week I will go through all of my DMs, and 50% of the time it is me replying with voice. I just find it way easier to send rather than like typing out a message, double checking my grammar and spelling, whereas I can just
Yeah.
say it in like 30 seconds to a minute. And I think, yeah, like you've mentioned, and proof is in the pudding here, is that people really appreciate that because they're like, wow, Charlie took the time out to actually send me a voice note. So I think that's so important, that kind of human to human connection, because I know tons of people will just automate it all and they'll have AI assistants to send DMs, send emails, send voice notes. But what I really value in this age of AI content is connecting and proving that I am generally a human being and not just an AI robot.
Yeah, yeah. Because nowadays, when you look on LinkedIn, you don't know if it's genuine content created by the respective authors, right? Because to your point, like you can use leverage AI to generate your content, but if you're not doing the things to make it your own, I don't think you will stand out from the generic AI post that everyone puts out there.
Yes, exactly. There's a big distinction I talk about quite a lot. It's rather than saying how to, you really want to say how I did it personally, because anybody can go to ChatGPT now and generate the answers. Versus no one can tell that exact story, that exact journey that I took when I quit my 9 to 5, because that's unique to me. So it's so important. And obviously you can leverage AI to kind of draw out these stories, but ultimately, yes, it has to come from a highly personalized based from your own expertise and experience.
So is it the storytelling? Is it making
Mm.
it personal to you that will attract attention or get more engagement?
Yeah, definitely. I always like to use, I statements in my posts, but also share any kind of like workflow or kind of AI system that comes to mind that I use every single day. I don't gatekeep anything that I do. I will share everything that makes my business work. And I think that's why I've done quite well, is that a lot of people give you a very generalist 20 ways to use ChatGPT cheat sheet or something.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, no, listen, this is exactly how I used it to create authentic AI content.
And it's all free, right? And you make it available to everyone. So I'll give you an example. So I saw a post you had about using Nano Banana to create images, right? And then you created this article, and you showed different images, and you said, if you want an image like this, here's the exact prompt. Just copy and paste this, and use this, and upload your picture. And it's so easy to do for anyone. So why? I know why you're doing it, but what's the strategy here? Like, why put things out for free when you could potentially monetize it and make money off of it?
Yeah, it's a good question, because a lot of people, even on that post, commented saying, I'm so glad you didn't make us comment in return for the resource, because that's a very popular strategy, just to inflate your reach
Yeah.
and to get more comments. Whereas, I just include it directly in the caption saying everyone access them here. And I ultimately believe that that builds up a lot of goodwill with my audience. One, they'll want to follow me, which obviously builds up my audience. But
Mm.
secondly, they want to work with me in the future potentially, because I've given so much value. Then when I maybe make an ask in the DM saying, hey, are you interested in working together, they're way more likely to say yes. And that just snowballs into more opportunities. For example, more digital products and services, and yeah, just more opportunities. I just like to see it as like a wider net to cast when it comes to finding making an ask.
Yeah, no, for sure. And to be honest, those are the people I follow on LinkedIn, right? Because uh, when I see people are open to give advice and put it out there for the public, you want to follow them. Whereas other people are like, do you want to know how to do this? Follow me or click here or subscribe to this, and you'll get the answer. It's kind of a hook to buy into something else, right? And not everybody is looking for that, right? Especially now, I think we're just at a time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where like this is the the period where we can really leverage AI for our growth, and most things right now are free, right? It doesn't take a, you don't have to put any money into to learn or use these tools.
Yeah, 100%. It just costs $20 a month, and basically that's it. That's why I'm a strong believer in like courses. Traditional courses are somewhat going extinct now because it's just information overload. You can access anything for free just by asking AI. Obviously, it is different when it comes to LinkedIn growth, for example, because that's very specific and nuanced.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, that's why it's so important to just create valuable content that is specific to you.
Yeah. Are there any models or ChatGPT tools that you prefer? Is it chat? Oh, sorry, AI tools. Is it ChatGPT? Is it Gemini or any others?
It's really interesting because I find myself switching between many models and many, LLMs. And that's some of my best posts is when I say, hey, you don't have to use ChatGPT for everything. I believe it's a strong generalist and it has its, pros such as GPTs, and I don't know, it's just got all my memory and context on that tool. So I stick with it. But
Mm.
then Claude is amazing at coding, creative writing. Perplexity is great for real-time research. And then also Gemini is I'm using it increasingly more and more, especially for image generation and anything that's kind of like within the Google ecosystem. So I switch between all of them to be honest. Then besides that is tools like Stanley, which is a really good one for LinkedIn post writing. Basically, it scrapes all of my LinkedIn posts and then
Mm.
writes it exactly in my style. It was the first post writer I ever used when I was like, wow, this has replaced ChatGPT. And then besides that, it's like Notion and Canva. It's quite a lean stack, and then obviously a few bits of automation here and there with like NA10 or Zapier.
Yeah, I think each tool has its own purpose or specialty, right?
Yeah,
Um, Sometimes people are don't have the flexibility, especially if they're working for an organization, you're limited to certain tools, right? That are available. But
yeah.
even then, like I think for most people in corporate America have Microsoft Copilot because they have the Microsoft ecosystem already, right? And so they use Copilot. I've heard talk on LinkedIn of people that not liking Copilot, but to be honest, I don't mind it. Like I think it's a good tool and it serves a purpose, and it does run on ChatGPT as well.
Exactly. I remember I did a training a few months back and I prepared my presentation and they said, by the way, this is for Copilot, right? I was like, what? Sorry. I didn't know that it was used so widely, but it makes sense if you're working for a large organization. And yeah, you're exactly right. It is run on ChatGPT. I just find that it doesn't have the same kind of memory and functionality of ChatGPT, but hey, it does the job. It's all the same ultimately. It's a LLM, and they will have a few small nuances, but they're basically the same thing.
At the end of the day, if you're not using it, it's still going to help you in your productivity, right?
Yeah, of course. Like, I mean, the amount of times when I've got like a hard decision to make or like an email which really needs a kind of refined tone to it, I'm just like, hey, AI, help me out here.
Yeah, for sure. Is there okay? uh, what's the secret sauce here? You talked about the ingredients when you're saying you're like a chef, right? You have the ingredients, and
Mhm.
then it's about preparing the dish and serving it.
Mm.
Um, is AI prompting that skill set that will allow you to properly prepare that meal?
So yeah, whilst I think prompt engineering is the foundation of everything when it comes to AI, we're moving towards a stage when it's now context engineering and how important that is compared to prompting. Because basically, because I have so much context in ChatGPT, for example, that being the memory enabled, which a lot of people don't actually have switched on, using connectors and MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, and basically just so much context stacked into my LLM. Basically, when I come to prompting, it can be a simple one liner because it knows what I spoke about yesterday. It knows that I've been thinking about this, style and brief for a while now. And I think that's where we're really heading. Less about prompt engineering, but more context engineering. That's where the gather stage comes into play.
But effective writing a proper prompt
Mhm.
does it require you to provide the context as well, does it not?
It does, definitely, of course. That's probably one of the biggest parts of the prompt. But ultimately, I just use Whisper Flow now and I just voice to text and just will give it the kind of initial context rather than you don't need to do all this fancy prompting saying you are a senior ghostwriter and I want you to help me write a LinkedIn post today. No, I find if you've got the custom instructions set up, memory enabled, and yeah, custom instructions, that's probably the biggest thing. Then when it comes to writing the post, just a small bit of context dumping, and then boom, it's good to go.
So you're saying that have it leverage your previous historical content to know the context? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and just having the kind of the formatting rules in place, using custom instructions, or you could use like a multi-shot prompting approach just by providing with three examples or something that's worked well, or you could build out a GPT for this. So I think back in 2023, I used to use my prompt library all the time, whereas now I rarely go into it because the systems are there and the kind of context is readily available.
So the system. So you talked about projects and you talked about custom GPTs. Right? I'm
Mm.
talking about Chat GPT here, right? Because
Yes.
the other tools have other names for the tools. But let's stick to Chat GPT because I think for the most part that's probably the most popular model out there.
Mm.
Um, so why should I use a project versus a GPT? What's the difference?
I get asked this question a lot, and it's surprising how many people don't actually leverage projects. I sometimes do
Yeah,
keynotes, and I ask the audience, how many of you have built a project? It's
yeah.
like 1% of the audience, and it absolutely baffles me. Basically, a project is a long-term memory tool, so you can upload files and as much information into it as you see fit. That's basically what I'm referring to in that gathering stage, using a tool like a ChatGPT projects. And then you provide it all this information, give it a very simple system instruction. And you could use this for like ongoing client work. You could use it for almost any use case. But the real power play here with a project is that it will retrieve the information for you readily versus a GPT, which I find is great for formatting. It's great for like very specific tasks when you need a very specific format or style. That will forget what you told it yesterday. So it's that's kind of the key distinction is long-term memory with projects, whereas GPT is short-term memory, but they're great for like executing specific flows or formats.
But and when you're creating custom GPTs, can you not include some of those resources in the GPTs as well?
You can, but ultimately it will forget. It will forget,
Yeah.
the new output that I wrote yesterday, unless you're continuously updating it. Versus a project remembers, that very input and output. And one of the only key benefits of using a GPT over a project is the fact you can share it with anybody. Whereas you need to be on the same ChatGPT Teams plan to both access the same project.
Ah, gotcha. So, and the same is true like in Gemini. Is that
Mm.
in Gemini you have Notebook LM? Is that is that the project version for Google Gemini?
Yes, it is. I mean, I believe it lives outside of Gemini.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not quite integrated in the same way. But yeah, ultimately it is, and it's kind of better
It's
than
better.
the ChatGPT projects. Yeah, ChatGPT projects will like bleed information. They've recently added a new kind of project only memory feature, which is cool and does what Notebook LM does. But you have so much more functionality with Notebook LM. You can turn it into an audio overview. You can turn it into like a slideshow. I think
Mhm.
it's people love that tool so much.
Yeah, yeah. I've been playing around with it too, and I think it's great, especially in the education space, right? Because like teachers can leverage this. Like one of the use cases that my wife works as a dean at a K to 12 educational school, right?
Mhm.
And she had me go in to talk to the teachers on how to adopt AI best practices and whatnot. And I told them about Notebook LM, and a lot of people are not even aware that it's out there. But once they
Mhm.
see it, they're like, "Wait, I can put in the students' assignments and have it graded for me based on a matrix of grading scheme that I provide." I'm like, yes, like, and the thing and the benefit and the reason why I say it's better is because it doesn't hallucinate, like it doesn't make mistakes. It only leverages what you feed it,
Mm.
whereas the general models will may may go out and get information that's incorrect, right? And that's the
Mhm.
other benefit is accuracy and references, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think AI education or AI in education is probably one of the biggest things we're seeing right now. If you look at ChatGPT's Instagram page, that's all they ever talk about is they're very much targeting these students. And yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, Nisar. It was spot on. Notebook LM, no hallucinations whatsoever.
Yeah. Does the ChatGPT projects hallucinate, or do you only
So
the material that you provide?
like it used to do that a lot more, but now they've got like a project only memory feature that they recently launched, I think a month or so ago. So now it will only reference the file uploads that you provide it, like Notebook LM. And I believe you can also do deep research in a project and call GPTs into your project files. So they're very kind of like subtle changes, but it has made projects a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm sure things are changing so fast, right? And a month from now, this may not be accurate, right? Because things move very fast in the AI space. So how do you keep up with everything? Like, where do you learn?
So it's very much, I'm very tuned into what's happening in the AI zeitgeist. I've really fine tuned my Instagram algorithm, for example. I'll literally be scrolling through it in the evening and see, like, whoa, there's a new AI update. Let me put that into my notes folder and I'll make a post about it tomorrow. But
Mm.
also, I've set up automation which basically scrapes Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, and X for trending AI news. And that really helps kind of uncover any of those lesser known AI releases, especially in like the video world at the minute. There's so much going on and so many new models. So very much just through social media. It kind of just
Yeah.
feeds itself.
And then the next part is just doing it yourself. That's when you actually learn it, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. If I do post anything, I will try to test it myself if it's available in the UK, which sometimes it's not. And
There's
yeah,
stricter guidelines there compared to America, right?
yeah, of course, we got like GDPR and like all of this stuff. But I mean, I got access to Sora too, just by changing my app store location to the US. So
Yeah, yeah,
there's always a workaround.
yeah. Okay, so no, this is great. Now, so people are listening to this and now they're like, okay, what do I do now?
Mm.
I know this is probably much more involved, but what's the playbook? If somebody's like, I want to leverage AI for my own personal growth on LinkedIn, what's the play here? What's the playbook? What should we do? How do we start?
Yeah, so ultimately, you want to kind of identify areas that you're weaker at. For example, I've never been the best copywriter, which is ironic because I run a ghostwriting agency. And thanks to AI, I was able to then write social media captions. Luckily, I've always been a good quite a good designer, so I very much kind of stick to that area.
Mm.
But ultimately, whatever skill set you're good at, you kind of focus on. But then anything that you're not so good at, just leverage AI to speed up that process. I mean, some of it is quite nuanced when you're referring to creative things like social media content, but it is ultimately to identify those weak spots, use AI to really kind of amp them up, and then always think about outsourcing it. It doesn't have to always be AI. I remember when I started outsourcing my designs around a year ago. That's when growth really started to accelerate. Because prior to that, it was all me doing everything, spending hours in Canva. As soon as I found someone else to do it for me, then everything sped up. So it's very much just using AI to 10x the amount of content you're able to produce and just get out there. Because the more you post, the more you'll learn, and the better you'll get at it.
That's interesting because I think people think that if you're leveraging AI, you can do everything yourself and you don't need to outsource anymore. But what you're saying is focus on what you're good at and maybe outsource some things that will save you time
Mm.
to make it to, to make it more productive.
100%. I just focus mainly on content ideation and strategy, and because that's what I'm good at, and that's where my time is most well spent versus spending an hour in Canva just to create a design that might not even be amazing. So definitely.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Listen, Charlie, we've this has been a great conversation. And if want people want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect?
Well, definitely LinkedIn. That is kind of like my home. But besides that, I'm also on Substack, and then my agency, Linked Agency. We also have a website landing page at linkedagency.com.
Okay, great. I'll if you want to provide me with the sites and links, I'll put it in the show notes here for people to leverage as well.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much, Nisar. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great chat, and hopefully this will help others also, especially those. I think I know we're ending here, but I think people oftentimes don't get into AI or are hesitant because they're afraid that they don't know what they're doing, right? Um, that should not be a roadblock because I think it's easier than people think.
Totally. It's so easy, to be honest. Especially when you're just leveraging generative AI. It's just a few prompts and a bit of practice, and you're there. Versus if we're talking about like vector databases and AI agents, then that's a whole different story. But when it comes
That's
down to,
next level. Yeah.
yeah, of course, like I'm no expert. It feels like sometimes I'm just someone who's always been very curious and leveraged it almost every single day.
But also, if you're somebody who's more experienced and you already have this knowledge, industry knowledge, and whatever line of work you're doing, I think those are the people who will be able to use AI and leverage it more effectively because they already have that knowledge and they're just going to accelerate um, the, the use of AI based on that knowledge. Whereas people who don't even have that knowledge, they're just starting from scratch.
Exactly, and today's the best time to start. So
Yeah,
don't
it's not
wait.
too late.
Yes, no, it's totally not. We're just at the beginning still, even though it's been around like 3 years now. Still just starting out.
It feels like a lifetime ago, though, right? These last 3 years.
I know. I mean, it's flown by, to be honest, though. And I'm just kind of, very excited, but also a little bit worried about where it's all heading and how it might all end up.
Uh, okay. Tell me why you're worried. What is it that's worrying you about the future of AI?
Well, it's just how like AI can do almost anything in a few years' time. Let's say the progress we've seen in the past 3 years has been astronomical. So for AI to actually kind of replace models, replace video editors, like all of this stuff is a little bit scary. I mean, besides that, it's definitely like the deep fakes and what this tech could do
Yeah.
to harm people rather than like to create good, and also the monopolization of power and tech all falling under like big companies like OpenAI. Those are the bits that scare me, despite being an absolute AI advocate. I'm just a little bit worried about where it could go.
I mean, with any new tech, you can use it for good and also for maybe incorrect or bad uses as well, right? So yeah, there's always things you have to be careful about and ensure that you're using it ethically.
Yes, of course, of course. And we don't really have a choice in the matter. We either kind of join in the bandwagon or
Yeah,
just
be left
accept
behind.
defeat and
Yeah.
just watch it all change the world. But I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm just being a little bit anxious and pessimistic about how it could turn out.
You're being real, right? And I think you still have to you still have to be grounded to some reality there too.
Yes, no, of course. But for AI content and creating a personal brand and
Yeah,
ultimately freedom, I believe it's very, very powerful.
yeah, fair enough. Well, Charlie, this has been great, and thank you again for joining the podcast.
And thanks for having me, Nisar. It was really good. And I hope the audience enjoyed it too.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a rating or review. It really helps more data nerds discover the show. You can find all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, and more at thedatanerdpodcast.com. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and embrace your inner data nerd.